Hello friends. Welcome to Defense Matrix. On this channel you will get fully information about defense and technology. Let's view the video. What if Hitler had won World War II? The turning point, how Hitler could have won the war. What if just a few key decisions had gone differently? History often hangs by a thread, and in the case of World War II, there were several moments where Hitler stood just inches from global domination. Imagine if the German Luftwaffe had crushed the Royal Air Force during the Battle of Britain. Or if Operation Barbarossa had launched weeks earlier, before the brutal Russian winter set in. What if Hitler had not invaded the Soviet Union at all, focusing instead on reinforcing Western Europe and North Africa? These aren't just hypotheticals, they were real possibilities. The German military had already achieved terrifying momentum. Crushing France in 6 weeks, humiliating the British at Dunkirk, and pushing deep into Soviet territory. Had Hitler listened more to his generals instead of pursuing ideological goals, he could have secured vital oil fields in the Caucasus, cut off Soviet supply lines, and possibly forced Stalin into surrender. And let's not forget the failed Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain. With air superiority and a better navy, the swastika might have flown over London. In this alternate timeline, one decisive battle or delayed decision could have rewritten everything. The US might have delayed entry, or never entered at all, if Britain fell early. The atomic bomb project could have fallen into Nazi hands. History could have bent toward tyranny permanently. This is where our journey begins, exploring a terrifying world that almost came true, the Nazi world order. A map of global power under Hitler. Visualize a world dominated not by freedom and democracy, but by a cold, calculated Nazi world order. The German Reich stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Ural Mountains. France becomes a permanent puppet state. Britain falls under Nazi occupation, its monarchy exiled, its people oppressed. In the east, the Soviet Union collapses, carved into German provinces. Hitler's vision of Lebensraum, living space, comes alive in the most brutal way, with mass displacement and genocide becoming policy. In this new world order, the United States faces a terrifying choice: isolate or resist. Without European allies, would the US have become an isolated fortress? Or entered a new Cold War against the Axis? Africa and the Middle East would have been stripped for resources, governed by military governors and SS warlords. Japan, Hitler's Axis partner, dominates the Pacific, clashing with Nazi Germany over global supremacy. A new Axis Cold War begins, Germany versus Japan. Meanwhile, Nazi ideology becomes global law, books burned, cultures erased, and surveillance expanded across continents. We will dive into detailed alternate maps, power blocks, and what international diplomacy or dictatorship might look like under a totalitarian regime. This is not just speculation, it's a chilling look at how real Nazi plans, like General Plan Ost and the Atlantic Wall, could have reshaped the world. A new era of military technology, Nazi supremacy in arms and innovation. If Hitler had won World War II, the arms race would have taken a terrifying turn. The Nazis were already pioneering weapons decades ahead of their time: jet-powered aircraft, guided missiles, and stealthy U-boats. What if they had the time and resources to develop them fully? The Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet fighter, could have dominated the skies. V-2 rockets might have evolved into ICBMs capable of crossing oceans. Imagine a Nazi nuclear bomb, not on paper, but in reality. Germany had a nuclear program, and if they'd captured enough heavy water and uranium from Norway and France, they could have developed a bomb before the U.S. A world where Berlin, not Washington, controls atomic energy would be a world held hostage by fear. Surveillance technology, too, would have advanced rapidly. The Nazi regime already relied on mass propaganda, state-controlled radio, and spy networks. In a world where they win, imagine modern-day Orwellian control powered by early computers, mass wiretapping, and biometric surveillance. The SS would become a global cyber police force. The innovation wouldn't stop at weapons, it would transform warfare. AI-style pattern recognition, early drones, and advanced tanks like the Maus Super Heavy tank would become reality. In this alternate future, Nazi dominance isn't just political, it's technological. And humanity might never recover from that leap in militarized control. Life under the Reich, society, resistance, and global consequences. Imagine waking up in a world where the Nazi swastika flies not just over Berlin, but over London, Paris, and possibly New York. In this alternate reality, Hitler's ideology seeps into every layer of society. Schools no longer teach critical thinking, they teach obedience. History is rewritten. Freedom of speech is erased. Children join Hitler Youth instead of scouts, trained to become loyal instruments of the regime. The media? Completely state-controlled. The press only prints what the Reich allows. Music, film, and literature are censored, banned, or burned. People whisper in fear, not because they've done something wrong, but because they might. The Gestapo's eyes and ears are everywhere, neighbors spying on neighbors, children reporting parents. Non-Aryan populations across the globe are either exterminated, enslaved, or subjected to horrific experimentation. Jewish communities, already decimated in the Holocaust, would cease to exist. Other groups, Slavs, Romani, LGBTQ, political dissidents, face cultural genocide. The human cost of Nazi victory is beyond measure. Yet in the darkest shadows of tyranny, sparks of resistance flicker. Underground movements would form in the UK, France, the US, and even within Germany itself. Secret networks of spies, saboteurs, and freedom fighters would wage a silent war against overwhelming odds. But unlike in our real timeline, these resistance efforts would face a near impossible uphill battle. What happens to science, art, and innovation when fear controls thought? Would Einstein, Freud, or Tesla have existed in this world or been eliminated for their ethnicity or beliefs? This chilling vision is not just fiction, it's a glimpse into the darkest future that nearly became real. Understanding life under the Reich isn't about fantasy, it's about realizing what humanity narrowly escaped. And why preserving freedom is worth every cost. Would there be another war? The inevitable rebellion against Hitler. Even in a world dominated by Nazi power, absolute control never lasts forever. History teaches us that tyranny always breeds rebellion. In this alternate timeline, Hitler's victory would only delay the next global conflict. Underground resistance, oppressed nations, and rival powers like Japan or the US would eventually rise against the Nazi regime. New alliances would form in secret, technologies would be developed in the shadows, and the world would slowly prepare for a second and possibly more devastating world war. The question isn't if rebellion comes. It's when. And at what cost? Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel Defense Matrix for more interesting and knowledgeful videos.